Hi, Lizeth.
Hi, Robin. How are you?
I'm so good. It's a rainy day in Southern California, which at the timing of the recording all of this, we are all super grateful for this rain out here. So I'm
Absolutely.
excited to share your story with everybody and all that you have accomplished. And I'd love to just start real quick, and I'm going to share an introduction about you so everybody knows all the amazing things you've done, and then we're going to dive into your story. Sound good?
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. So Lizeth has spent over 2 decades in human resources and luxury hospitality, and over the last couple of years has pivoted to nonprofit, where she has really focused on her passion in working with local communities to provide support and resources. And another thing that's amazing about Lizeth that I think so many people are going to be excited to learn more about of the two books that you have co-authored. One was released this past September, which is Latinas Rising Up in Human Resources, the executive edition, and the next one that's coming out is United Latinas Volume 4, which is amazing, and for the community of Latina women going to be an incredible resource. So I'm so excited to dive into your story and how you got there and why these books and what that's meant for you and your community. So thank you so much for sharing your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, they have been some really exciting projects, and it really started with the networking with these amazing women in these communities, and specifically with Latinas Rising Up in HR, the executive edition. It's 12 amazing Latinas from different parts of the U.S., different backgrounds, all in HR. And we all get to share how we got into HR, but also sharing a piece of advice. And I think that's what makes the book extra special, is that we all give some sort of, reflection or tools or resources that hopefully, others can use. And that was released in last September. The other book that's coming up in March, it's United Latinas. And we also get to share our background. But this particular edition, it's female Latinas from different backgrounds, different industries. And again, sharing sort of a history about us. And sharing some quotes, also some pieces of advice. So it's been very inspiring to be able to share my background, and being able to share that with the community, and hopefully as a resource for others.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and it just melds so well with what we're trying to do with the Naked Truth as well, is just be a resource for women. And instead of looking at this from like a competitive standpoint, more an opportunity for all of us to lift each other up. And there's so much power in the female community, and whether it's specific with the Latina community, whether it is women in general, women in tech, there's so many opportunities. And I think the more we all take advantage of these opportunities to help each other and our future female leaders rise up, the better we're all going to be. And so I'm curious, I'd love to maybe start and dig in a little bit of what the beginning of your journey was, and how you started in HR and became this incredible executive for some amazing brand name organizations.
Thank you. Actually, when I started my career, I was focusing in accounting. And when I was going to school, I was working and going to school. And so I thought my career path was going to be in the finance world. And I started working in hospitality, because it's one of those industries that has that flexibility with hours and going to school. So trying to juggle that. And in 2001, the director of HR at the hotel that I was working at, there was some restructures, and he brought me into human resources. And so that was my first introduction to human resources. And he became such a great mentor. And to the day, he's my mentor. And he really guided me to understanding, the foundation of HR, balancing that, business advocate and being an employee advocate. And so I shifted my career, decided to pursue my career in human resources. I stayed in hospitality for over 2 decades and was able to, proceed from HR coordinator to manager to director, then to the corporate HR roles. Um, and now, 25 years later, transitioned into nonprofit as a chief HR officer. And so all of my experiences have helped me to get to where I'm at, been able to work in all areas of human resources. But I think because at that time, my mentor really, was the one that opened that opportunity. It inspired me to be that type of leader, right? To be able to look for ways to develop my team, to develop others, to provide those resources and guide them and let them, flourish. And so I think that was pivotal point in my life because he saw something in me, and that's what I try and reciprocate, is being there as a resource and mentor to others to help them grow in whatever they decide to, grow into.
Yeah. And there's so much to dig into here because on the one hand, it's the mentorship. And I think for our future female leaders, realizing how important that is as you are looking for a job and looking at an organization or a leader who will take the time to find their strengths and to develop their strengths. And then on the other side of the equation, there are so many women that I have talked to that are at this stage in their career who want to do something different and feel stuck or not sure they could pivot industries or not sure, maybe I started in accounting and finance, but I followed my path and ended up somewhere different. There's so many nuances here that I'm finding are so common in these conversations. And I'm curious, I'd love to talk about, because I think it's very relevant right now, is the transition from the hospitality industry into the nonprofit industry and seeking out your passions and how you made that happen. Because there's so many people trying to do that right now. And I'd love if you could maybe share a few tips of how you did that, and has it been fulfilling?
Yeah, no, thank you. One of what also has been important for me is the relationships, the networking, and, making those genuine connections. And it's true, a lot of some of these opportunities come about, or those connections that you have, and staying in touch with the people, but from a transactional, right? But really getting to know them as individual, because it's a very small world. And, perhaps one day I'm helping you out, but maybe another time you're going to help me out, right? And it's about supporting each other. Um, and so I think this is why, these associations that I've been partnering with, such as Latinas Rising Up in HR or United Latinas, it's that support amongst the women that really is inspiring, right? And we have very candid conversations. If someone needs help, you post a question and everybody chimes in. And so, that's the kind of the energy, the motivation, that you need. So one is that relationship networking piece, and the other piece is taking those risks. For me, I've been a risk taker. I've always, been the type that if something sparks my curiosity, my interest, I'll look into it and try it. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, I learned something from it and I move on, right? So I think those things have led me to where I'm at. And I'm still learning. I'm still, exploring. Every day you learn something different. And so it's just, learning to find those passions, learning to find, where you need to continue to what is it, sharpen the pencil. And that's important for me.
Yeah. What was the biggest challenge that you faced in shifting out of the hotel industry, the luxury hotel industry, into nonprofit?
Understanding the business model.
Mm.
The foundations of HR are the same. And having, predominantly lived here in California, um, employment in California is very complex. So a lot of the HR fundamentals are the same. What really is different is the business model. So for me, that was the biggest shift, is understanding the business model and then being able to marry the HR strategy with the business strategy.
Yeah. So if you were to pass on advice to our future female leaders about creating that path, and I coach and mentor a lot of recent college grads, and I happen to have a child in college right now, and I'm finding that generation feels so much the need to know exactly what they're going to do and commit to it, and this pressure, and I'm going to major in this, and then I'm going to get this job. And I think as we grow in our career, we realize that you may have started in one place and shifted to another, and that's okay. You just have to start somewhere. I'm just curious, based on your story, what advice you would give to our future female leaders that are just starting out in their career.
Never stop learning, continue to explore. And for me, that also has been very important because the constant learning and evolution has opened different opportunities. And to your point, I'm now in a very different field than what I thought about when I was starting my career.
Yeah.
And that's okay, as long as you follow your passion, what makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is fundamental, is follow your passions. You're gonna learn, you're gonna grow, but never give up on what excites you.
Yeah. And it's okay to make a change, right? That
Yes.
I think that's another one, is that it's okay to shift. You don't have to just be in this one direction. And I love that. What about, I also am finding, for a multitude of reasons, right? There are women who have left the workforce to become moms or to take care of their aging parents, and they want to come back and they need to get back to work, or maybe they've been in a certain industry for a really long time and want to make this shift into another industry. I know you talked about like creating and keeping those networks, because that's so critical. And then you talk about shifting and having to learn a new business model. Like, if somebody is wanting to make that shift, what would you recommend as like a process, as a mindset that you could share that was successful for you, that if there are other women who want to make that change, what would you recommend?
No, I think earlier you mentioned about change, and I think being prepared with that mindset that change is going to be constant
Mhm.
is critical, because as we know, the world is changing very, very quickly at a very rapid pace. And, not only just externally in the world, but also in the businesses. And so even though you might be in a comfort place, things will continue to change. And so I think being able to have that open mind that things will change, that you're going to have to pivot, you're going to learn from it, but see that as an opportunity to keep exploring until you reach that point where you feel you're there where you want to be, but continue to find ways to motivate you to push yourself, because change is an evolution and change is constant.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting. I always think these things are clearly not by accident, but I normally don't open Instagram in the morning. I consciously try and not have that as my practice. I happened to do that this morning. And there was an individual that I went to grammar school with, and he was announcing the passing of his father.
Oh,
And I grew up in the Palisades, which obviously has had, a tremendous amount of trauma recently. And um, his dad had owned a pharmacy in the town we were growing up in. And then some of the big box pharmacies came in, and he wasn't able to continue the business. It couldn't sustain the competition in this small town. And my friend that I grew up with was just talking about the transitions and the flexibility, and how his dad just took this incredibly positive outlook and was like, okay, great. And now I'm just going to go work on the corporate side. And then was excited that they had like endless coffee and, trips to Punta Mita at the Four Seasons. And he got to be with, groups of people. And this was an individual who had built a whole life in a pharmacy in a community that he had. And instead of looking at it as a failure, or instead of looking at it as something that, just this angst of change. It was an opportunity, like what you were saying. And it was such a beautiful story. It really kind of just hit me hard, and interesting how it ties into what you are saying. And it's about looking for the opportunity in these moments of change and transition, instead of just focusing on the oh no and the angst of it, but the constant learning. So I think it's such incredible advice. And I know I always promise everybody I don't want to make these too long, because I know we are all so busy, but I do, before we want to wrap up, really want to talk about your takeaway from this community and these books, or maybe one thing you could share from the book that was just a big standout for you, that we can share with those that are listening today, of what you learned from being in community in this book.
Surround yourself with people that uplift you, because that will make a big difference in your life. And to me, that has been very inspiring. And that was a key takeaway from these experiences, is surrounding myself with people that can uplift you and support you, mentor you, guide you. Because that's more important than anything.
It is. It's being in community with people, I think, and we get so stuck on Zoom or in our home offices now. And I think that's one thing that has been lacking, is that community. And I think we have to now make such an effort to reach out and to connect with people in person, and get out of our home offices and be in community, to allow those spaces for people to support each other in rising up, right?
Exactly.
It's, whether it's through a book, whether it's through doing this, it's just, I think, I don't know, I see that as sort of the next phase, is us kind of coming back to that, because that community is just so critical for everybody's success and joy, and for joy as well. So, well, I'm so excited to peek into the book, and again, Lizeth's book coming out is United Latinas Volume 4. When is it coming out? Just so everybody can know.
In March, next month.
Okay,
Yes.
so exciting. I can't wait.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate you sharing your time with me, and for us to have a chance to hear your story. It's hopefully will inspire some people to reconnect and make sure to look for the positives in those transitions. So thank you.
Thank you, Robin.